Hello folks, welcome back to yet another video in this series of Java programming in BlueJ environment. So in the video number 5.1, I had got started with all these patterns, but I couldn't complete the video with all the 4 patterns printed over here using nested for loops. I guess I just completed 2 programs. One was like printing this rectangular pattern of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the one in the top left corner of the screen and the other one being in the bottom right corner of the screen. And in this video I would like to actually discuss about how do we write program to print this pattern, which is basically the triangular number patterns. The triangular number pattern being like, let me discuss about the first one, 1 3 1 5 3 1 7 3 5 1 9 7 5 3 1. So let's get started writing the program, because there's like not too much of logic involved in this program. So let's directly get our hands dirty with the code. Starting BlueJ. Yes, I just create a new class by the name patterns. Open the editor. Meanwhile, let me actually keep the pattern open so that we can look into it whenever we need it. So we are actually going to print the triangular pattern on the right side. That is a triangle which looks like a right angled triangle that is printing 1 3 1 5 3 1 7 3 5 1 and those things. So let me actually clear everything what the editor is giving me default. So class patterns. Then let's write the main function, which is like the next step to do. Public static void main followed by public static void main followed by, okay, first in all these kinds of programs, as I usually say, figure out how many rows are actually there. 1 2 3 4 5. There are 5 rows. So I would initialize a variable called as row count is equal to 5. Now let me write the outline of the program. For int I is equal to 0, I less than row count I plus plus, and then I have to print a new line because all of these sequences are printed in one line each, followed by a new line spacing. So system.out.println, print a new line. After that, what should we do? What should we do inside this for loop? Yes, this is where we're supposed to actually think of the logic. Well, let me open a text pad. In this, we can just do our basic scribbling work. What do we see here? What do we print in the first row? We print 1. What do we print in the second row? We print 3 followed by 1. What do we print in the third row? We print 5, 3 and 1. So what is the first number I have to print? What is the first number that I have to print? I have to print the first number as 1, go to the next line, then I have to print 2 numbers in the next line, then I have to actually print 3 numbers in the next line. It's like 5 3 1. Then I have to print 4 numbers in the next line, 7 3 5 1. Then I have to print 9 7 5 3 1. Basically I am actually printing 1 number in the first row, then I'm actually printing 2 numbers in the second row, then I'm printing 3 numbers in the third row, and so on. So how many numbers am I printing? I'm actually printing first just 1 number in 1 row. So for int j is equal to 0 and j less than 1, I need a loop to do that. J less than 1, and I would say j plus plus. Alright, I would just want to print 1 number. What is that number? I don't know. I would just like to print num. Print some number. You know, print some number. But observe carefully what's happening. I want this loop to execute one time for the first time, and when this loop is executing for the second time, I want this inner loop to execute two times, because that's when in the next line I'm printing two numbers. I want to actually execute this inner loop three times when it is executed for the third time, because I want to print three numbers. So what would I do? Just think. I have to make it equal to I. You know what? I have to make it equal to I. What is the value of I when it comes inside? Now let's initialize the number to 1, and let's see what is going to be the output of this program. By this time you must have actually got what exactly I'm trying to do. That's the reason why I'm not going too much in detail when I would have discussed the previous pattern programs. You must be like, pretty much aware by this time what's happening in this nested loops. Oops, I closed it. Compile it, yeah, close it. Now call the main function. You must be able to guess the output. My guess is I would be getting, instead of 1 2 1 5 3 1 7 3 5 1 9 7 5 3 1, I should be getting something like 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 and followed by 5 ones. I should be getting the output first like this. Call the main. See, you got it? I've actually got 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. 4 different times I've got it. So clear it. We need 5 different times the same thing. Let's go to the program. So row count is 5. Row count is initialized to 5. Why is that? I'm not getting it. Why is that? Row count is initialized to 5. Alright. So what are we supposed to do now? Let's open the program. Open this thing. So we are getting this pattern. Compile it, close it. I want to actually see this once again. 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Why not? It is printing 5 times. Why is it not printing 5 times? I equals to 0. Row count, I less than or equal to row count. 0 1 2 3 4 5. It will print 6 times. Why is that? I don't want it to be printing 6 times. I just want to print this pattern. 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows, 4 rows and 5 different rows. Well, let me try it. Compile it, close it, call the main. Yes, 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 and 5. Let me clear the output. Let me close it. Now row count is initialized to 5, but why didn't I actually get 0 to 5 as, why didn't I get 0 to 5 as 4 times? You know what? I don't want to give I here. I want this loop to execute once for the first time, and I want this loop to execute 2 times for the second time, 3 times for the third time, 4 times for the fourth time, and 5 times for the fifth time. So I would like to give it as set a variable called as max. I would initialize max to 1. Then each time it is exiting out of this, I would give max plus plus. Now let's see what is going to happen here. Compile it. Have a look at the code. It's less than RC. It's not less than or equal to RC here. So yes. So let's actually compile this, close it, and rerun the program. Call the main. Now you see first row, second row, third row, fourth row, and fifth row. By printing so many star patterns by this time, this must be a piece of cake for you. Now looking at this, we have got this pattern. Now what is the first number we are printing? 1. What should happen to print the next number? I can also set num to 1 over here. What is the next number I'm supposed to print? Num is equal to num plus 2. The reason being very simple. We have to print 3 the next time. you have to print 5 the next time, and so on. So when we come inside here for the first time, we just have to directly print num. When we get outside the loop, we have to make num is equal to num plus 2. Alright, we have to make num is equal to num plus 2, and we have to print num, and here num is equal to num minus 2. Right? No, I don't know, maybe this is not going to work. Okay, let's get back to the logic. This is 5, this is 7, and this has to be 9 over here. So this is 5, 3, 1, 7, 5, 3, 1. This is going to be 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. So first time num is initialized to 1. It comes inside here. Then it's actually printing the num value. Alright, we'll initialize num to -1, and as soon as we come inside, let's give num is equal to num plus 2. So for the first time when we are coming inside this loop, num is going to become equal to 1. We are printing num. After printing num, what we try to do is we try to store the value of temp. Temp is equal to num. I declare another variable called temp, which I initialize it to 0. When I say temp is equal to num, I'm just printing temp, and I'm just printing temp is equal to temp minus 2. Saying this would work. Now what am I doing here is, as soon as I come inside this loop, num is equal to num plus 2. As soon as I come inside loop 1, let me label it as loop 1, and let me label this as loop 2. See, loop 1 is executing 5 times. The major function of loop 1 is just to each time to move the cursor down and print one new line. That's it. The cursor was here previously. It came here. First time when the loop 1 is executing, it's printed a new line and the cursor is blinking here. The cursor is still blinking here. Now what our function is doing is, the inner loop is doing is, num is equal to num plus 2. Num was initialized to -1 here. When num is equal to num plus 2, -1 plus 2 is going to be +1. And I'm storing that value of num in a temporary variable called temp. I enter inside another inner loop. What the inner loop does is, I'm going to write the same thing over here, for int j is equal to 0, j less than max, and j plus plus. What am I going to do here inside this loop? The inner loop is going to run exactly one time, because if max is equal to 1, it's initialized to 1 first time when it is coming inside. So the inner loop will run exactly once. I'm just printing temp. Temp is anyway 1, so 1 is printed here. You see, 1 actually is, let me print it down here. So 1 is printed here. And then what do I do? Temp is equal to temp minus 2. But this loop will get over, because this loop is executing exactly from 0 to 1. This loop will get over. I'm going to come outside. Okay, I'm going to increment max. Now I'm going to make max is equal to 2. So the next time the loop is going to run 2 times. This inner loop is going to run 2 times because max is equal to 2. So it will be j is equal to 0 to 2. It's going to run 0 and 1. 2 times it's going to run. Now I'm actually incrementing num is equal to num plus 2. Previously, in the first run, num is equal to 1 when I actually came inside here. Now when I'm coming for the second time during the second run, now num is equal to 3. Alright, so what am I doing here? I'm storing the value of num in a temporary variable called temp. So I'm actually printing temp. What is the value of temp now? The value of temp, by the time the cursor would have gone to the next line, because it has printed this line, so the cursor would have come here. So what is the next value of temp? Temp value is num. What is num? Num plus 2. Previous value of num, 1. So the value of temp now is num plus 2. So it's going to be 3. So this loop is anyway going to execute 2 different times. It's again going to go and come back here. So it's going to do temp is equal to temp minus 2. What is the previous value of temp? 3. Now it's going to print 1. Now we are going to come to the next line. When we come to the next line, this time num is equal to 1. When we come during the third run, num is equal to num plus 2, we have num is equal to 5. And then we have incremented max. Max is equal to max plus 1 when we are coming out of the loop. So max is equal to 3 now. When max is equal to 3, this inner loop is going to execute 3 different times. This inner loop, this is loop 2, is going to execute 3 different times because the loop counter over here is 3. What am I printing now? I am printing temp. What is temp? Temp is having the value of num. What is the value of num now? Num is equal to 5. So the inner loop is going to execute 3 times. First time when it is executing, it will print 5. And then again it will do temp is equal to temp minus 2. It's printing the value of temp. What is there in temp? Whatever was there in num. So temp is equal to temp minus 2. So 5 minus 2 is 3. Once again this inner loop is going to be executed. Once again this inner loop is going to get executed. That time it's actually going to print temp is equal to temp minus 2. So it's going to print 1. 3 times inner loop exits. We come outside this loop, we increment max. We make max is equal to 4, and then we make num is equal to num plus 2. So when it's entering, after we get out of this part, we go here, we again come back from this loop, we print a new line. That time num is equal to num plus 2. I don't have to give it here, it's given twice. We don't have to do it, just have to remove it here. So when num is equal to num plus 2, it's already given it here. During the fourth run of the outside loop, this is the outer loop, loop 1. During the fourth run of the outer loop, num will be equal to 7. So is the value of temp. Temp is equal to num, which is equal to 7, which is happening here. Now when we come inside the inner loop, it's going to print temp. Since the cursor has already gone to the new line, would have gone to the new line because of execution of this system.out.println statement over here, the cursor will be in the new line. Now the value of temp is equal to 7. So to print 7, since the inner loop actually is executing 4 different times. So first time it will print 7, second time it will print 7 minus 2, which is 5, third time it will print 5 minus 2, which is equal to 3, and fourth time it's actually going to print 3 minus 2, which is equal to 1. And now we come out of this for loop because it has finished executing 4 times. The yellow highlighted part, the loop 2 over here, that loop has finished executing 4 times. It's going to come outside that loop and we are going to increment max. So we make max is equal to 5. And then we again come to the end of the first loop. But we again branch back into the first loop because first loop needs to run 5 times, but we have run only 4 times. So during the 5th run of the first loop, what will be the value of num? Num is equal to, it's going to first print a new line. So the cursor which was here previously would have moved to the new line, and num is equal to num plus 2. So num is equal to 7, and so is temp, which is equal to num, which is also equal to, num is equal to 9, 7 plus 2, and so is the value of temp, which is going to be equal to 9. With these values, we are again going to enter inside the inner loop. Now inner loop, what is the value of max? Max is equal to 5. So the cursor is going to be blinking over here. So the first number what the inner loop is going to print is going to be the number stored in temp. So that number is 9. So I'll print 9. Since the inner loop, which is highlighted in yellow color, the loop 2 is going to run 5 times. It's going to print the number in decreasing order of 2s. So 9 minus 2 is going to be 7, and 7 minus 2 is going to be 5, and 5 minus 2 is going to be 3, and 3 minus 2 is going to be 1. It has executed 5 different times by printing 5 different numbers, and then finally we come out of this loop, we again increment max. Max actually becomes equal to 6 this time, but we again get back into the first loop and check what is the condition of this. Now the value of I for loop 1 during the last run, I will be equal to 6, and row count will be equal to, I will be equal to 5, and row count will be equal to 5. So the condition check will fail. 5 is not less than 5. It will check if I less than RC. No, 5 is not less than 5. It will not enter the loop again. It's not going to enter the first loop or loop 1. And that ends the program. Let's compile this and let's see whether we are getting the required output called main. See, 131 531 7351 97351 is exactly what we wanted to print as one part of this video. So I'm done explaining printing 1, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 7, 3, 5, 1, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. So let's clear it up and move on to the next program. Let's actually try printing 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. This pattern, this triangular, this right angle triangular pattern of zeros and ones in the bottom left corner of the screen. So let me actually clear here, except for the main, let me clear everything up. So the first thing what I would like to identify is like how many rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So I need to create a row counter variable and initialize it to 5. I need to create an outline of the program, int I is equal to 0 and I is less than row count and I plus plus. Open the bracket, close the bracket. Now I need to print a new line. You know why? System.out.println, just a new line. And now, before actually approaching any programs in the pattern wise thing, first try to write the framework for printing stars or printing a single digit. Say if I want to print something like 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, I need to actually write a simple program which does something like, print stars, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 stars. So I need to write a simple program to print stars. I think that must be clear for you. So for int j is equal to 0, j less than max, j plus plus, it's the skeletal structure of this program is exactly same like the last program, nothing new. And I would actually increment max here, max plus plus, and I would have actually declared max to be equal to 1. And now I would just print I would just print stars. So I should be getting a star in this pattern, and the pattern which we are supposed to print also looks very close to it. 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So as soon as you see any pattern like numbers in a triangular pattern, the first thing is you should be able to at least write a program within 2 minutes, within just 2 minutes, to print a star pattern. Okay, but the next few minutes we are going to discuss about how do we print the actual sequences instead of stars. So once you actually get a star pattern in this structure getting printed, then 70% of your work is done. So let me compile it and let me first check, am I actually getting stars? No syntax errors, close, and then call the main function. See, I'm getting stars, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 rows and 5 different stars. So let me clear it, let me close it. Now let us actually break the head. What are we supposed to do to print 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0 and 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. If you notice very carefully, the first number I'm actually printing is 1 and the next number I'm printing is 1 followed by 0. So I have to do some kind of modification in the inner loop over here. Oops. I have to make a small modification here. Say, how do I actually toggle between 1 and 0? Let's think. How do we actually toggle between 1 and 0? Alright, so what if we actually replace this star with a variable called num? I declare a variable called num over here. Fine, what will happen if I actually do this? If I actually try to replace that star by num, the entire sequence is going to get printed with 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, followed by 4 ones and followed by 5 ones. This is very clear to you. But now the trick is, each time we are actually printing 1, next time we have to print a complement of 1, which is 0. So what I would do here is, if num equals to 1, I would change it now, obtain the complement, num equals to 0. Else num equals to 1. Now let me actually try to initialize num to 1 here each time I'm coming inside this loop. Say this inner loop is now executing. Let me actually do a dry walkthrough of the program. We have printed this, everything is done. Now let me actually show you what is the value of I. The outer loop is going to just blindly run 5 times when I is equal to 0. Right? We are first going to come inside this for loop, and then we are going to print a new line, and then we are initializing num is equal to 1. Now what's going to happen in this inner loop? Just pay close attention. This is a very important step of the program to do a dry run of the inner loop. In the inner loop, I would call it as loop 2, and I would call this as loop 1. Loop 1, this is I is equal to 0 is a part of loop 1. Num is equal to 1 is also a part of loop 1. Everything is happening, all of this is because of loop 1. I is equal to 0. This is the first run. This is the first run. This is the outer loop, loop 1. We now actually come inside the inner loop. Now we are entering inner loop. After entering the inner loop, what would happen is, for the first time, entering the inner loop, let me enlarge this notepad and let me pull it up. Let me pull this down. Okay, when we're entering the inner loop, what is happening here is the value of num is equal to 1. Num is already equal to 1. We say j is equal to 0, and we know that max is equal to 1. Therefore, this inner loop is going to run exactly once. We are printing a new line. First a new line is printed, and then we are printing the number, whatever is stored in the number, in the variable called num. Since num is initialized to 1, we are printing 1. After printing 1, we are actually going to the next step over here. If num equals to 1, yes, our num is equal to 1. Then I'm setting num equals to 0 now. I'm setting num is equal to 0, and I'm coming outside this loop. If I come outside this loop, I'm again trying to enter this loop, but this condition check will fail because this loop has to run only once between 0 and 1. Although my new num value is equal to 0. So I exit this inner loop. Alright, I go outside this inner loop. I increment my max. Okay, I increment my max. I go back to the first loop. I increment my I to 1. Even though my inner loop had set num is equal to 0, I'm going to reset that value of num is equal to 1, because see here, each time just before entering the inner loop, we have to keep num is equal to 1. Because the very first number what we are going to print has to be 1. Just look at this pattern. The very first number what we have to print in the beginning of every new line is 1. So who's actually doing the work of printing the numbers? The inner loop. So just before we enter the inner loop, we have to make sure num is always equal to 1. That's the reason why I have given num is equal to 1 over here just before entering the inner loop or loop 2. Now num is equal to 1. I must be equal to loop 1. Instead of first run, this is the second run now. This is the second run. Now entering the inner loop, now max would have been 2, because previously when we exited the inner loop and we went again inside the outer loop, that is loop 1, we made max is equal to max plus plus, so max is equal to 2 now. Now we already printed a new line, so the cursor is over here. First thing, we are printing num. Alright, we are printing num, so we are printing 1. Now we are coming down here. If num is equal to 1, then num is equal to 0. Yes, our current value of num is equal to 1. Okay, current value of num is equal to 1. But when we execute this step, because our current value of num is 1, make it 0. So I'm now going to make num is equal to 0. Okay, and it's going to come out of this loop and again going to re-enter this inner loop once again. Why is it re-entering the loop once again? Because max is equal to 2. This inner loop has to execute twice. It has printed only one number. It has to execute twice. It will now print the current value of num, which was previously changed to 0. Now it's going to print 0. Alright, now since it has executed 2 times, it's going to come outside. While leaving, it's going to increment max, right? But just before leaving, what was the previous value of num is equal to 0. So now it will make num is equal to 1. It will make num is equal to 1. And then max is implemented. It will go out, it will come here and re-enter from the first loop or loop 1 or the outer loop. When it is re-entering, my first job is to again print a new line. Here now I is equal to I plus plus, my I will become equal to 2. This is the third run. This is the third run of the program or third run of the outer loop. Now the next thing is to print a new line. Yes, new line printed. Previously my cursor was here, new line printed. Now irrespective of whatever was the value of num previously, I am resetting it to num is equal to 1. So num is anyway now equal to 1. Now coming back to the inner loop. What's going to happen over here? Inner loop is going to execute 3 different times. First time it's going to print num as it is, and then it's going to come down here. If num is equal to 1, then I make num is equal to 0. Yes, my current value of num is 1, so I make my num is equal to 0 here. I make my num is equal to 0 and I exit this loop. Again come back here, again re-enter the loop because it has to execute 3 times. I've executed only once. Okay, max is 3 now. It now actually prints a value of num. What is the value of num? Num is now equal to 0. After printing num, I come to this step. Is num equal to 1? No, my num is not equal to 1. My num is equal to 0. So what I do, it will come to this block and make again num equal to 1. So I'm again making my num is equal to 1. This is how I'm toggling between 0 and 1 or changing between 0 and 1. Since this loop has executed only 2 times, it has to execute one more time. It has to run one more time. It's going to come inside this loop and print the value of num, which is now equal to 1. So now we have the pattern 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, and this loop is going to get executed and it's going to make max is equal to 4, and it's again going to go here to the outer loop and it's again going to complete the 4th run. Again it's actually going to make I is equal to 3 and so on. So it's actually going to finish 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, and then it will come to the 5th one. It's going to finish 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, something like this. That's it. This is what is going to happen, but I'm not going to explain that over and over again because it's the same thing what is happening in the loop. If you would have understood until now, until the 3rd run, I think 4th and 5th run is like self-explanatory. So I hope you understood this program. It's a very simple program. Compile this, no syntax error, void main. See, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 is exactly the pattern which we wanted to print. And this actually completes all the 4 patterns which are actually, appearing on the screen. All the 4 pattern is now being discussed. That ends the program discussion and that also ends this video. So goodbye for now. Catch you soon in yet another video. Bye.